So for like way too long, I've kind of put off learning geometry nodes. It just, it's a little intimidating, right? It's a new language, basically. But seeing all these like super cool renders of what its capabilities are, like, has me a little inspired here. So I decided to kind of dig in and try and make something cool with these guys. And I wanted to share that with you guys, and in hopes that if anyone else is out there feeling a little hesitant about starting to learn geonodes, that they can see that this isn't that hard. That basically it's a lot of simple building blocks to make something that looks really complex. What we're going to be making today is this kind of super geometric, spherical, sci-fi looking, sphere, I guess. And it looks super complicated, but really all it is these nodes down here. I mean, this is pretty much the node tree for it. There's actually one more setup for the sphere inside, the kind of cage, and it's right here. That's what this looks like. All right, so first thing we're gonna do is grab a new project. Make sure I save that just in case we need to reference it. So the cool thing about geometry nodes is that it's actually just a modifier setup. So you can add it on top of existing geometry, and it will pretty much disregard whatever the geometry is that you put it on top of. So we're not going to really spend any time messing around with this cube. We're just going to go straight to the modifier tab, add modifier, and then geometry nodes, and then we'll click new. Now that we got that set up, we can actually go to the geometry nodes page, and you'll see that we have our two starting nodes over here. You got your input and you got your output. And basically anything that runs through the output is what we're going to see in our screen here. So if we actually unplug that, our cube disappears. If we bring it back, it reappears. So with that in mind, what we first want to do is get our base geometry, our starting geometry. And I didn't want to start with a cube. I thought, let's go with an icosphere. And so the way that you would add geometry in this workspace is by going to either the add tab right here, if you know where it is. So like geometry, and then somewhere in here, mesh, mesh primitives. And then here's all of our primitives that you would normally find when you're doing traditional box modeling. Or we can also hit Shift A, and I'll probably use this option a lot, and then actually search for what we're looking for. So what I want to do is I want to throw in an icosphere, and then we'll connect that to the output node. So here's our icosphere. We can delete that, and we can play with the radius, play with the subdivisions, all that kind of good stuff. So I like this for right now. And what I essentially want to do is I want to use the icosphere to drive the shape for cubes that I want to put all over the outside of it. And the way that we're going to do that is by adding something called instance on points. And this node, get super familiar with it, because I feel like 90% of the things I'm seeing being created are using this instance on points at some part in the process. And so right now, if we plug it in, it actually looks like it does nothing. But what we want to do is we want to take another piece of geometry and throw that into the instance slot. And then that's going to basically put that geometry anywhere that there's a vertex or a point on the mesh of our icosphere here. So Shift A to add another node, and we're just going to add a cube for right now, and take the mesh and go into the instance. And now you can see that we have cubes everywhere that there would have been a vertice on our icosphere. And then within here, you can scale your cubes in any way that you want, just like we'd be able to in the normal layout tab. We can also mess with the radius and the subdivisions. Let's see. I think something like that will work for now. Honestly, we're like 90% of the way done. But what we really want to do is we want to swap out these kind of boring default cube looking things for something a little bit more tailored to what we're looking for. So in order to do that, we actually won't use geometry nodes. We're going to do normal box modeling with this, and then bring that model into this workspace. So let's go back out to our layout. We can hide our GeoNode rig Let's just rename that so we know what it is. Geo nodes 1. Super detailed. Okay, let's hide that. Now, let's Shift A to add a cube. Okay, and let's go into face mode. And so what I want to do is I basically want to inset a bunch of these faces. Let's see, we're just going to grab them. And to use this inset tool, you can either grab it from your menu over here, or I believe I is the hotkey for it. Oop, come on. Okay, we'll just grab it over here. And then, nope, the bottom. Okay. There we go. Cool. Now what we can do is grab all of these faces by holding Shift and selecting. We'll go over here to our extrude tool, make sure that we have extrude along normal selected. If you don't, you can just long press, on this tool, and then make sure you find extrude along normals. And now when I drag it in, they'll all go in like that. That's kind of cool. I think I want to do this. This is what I did in the first render. Cool. So one of the reasons we're modeling our cube this way is that I ultimately want to throw a bevel modifier on it. And as far as I know right now, in Blender 4.0.2, you can't add a bevel modifier or a bevel using geometry nodes. If I'm wrong on that, please someone correct me. But for right now, the way we're going to do it is come over here to our modifier tab, go to add modifier, and then we're going to search for bevel. I just want to put a slight bevel on it. Nothing too crazy. I just want to round off those edges just ever so slightly. You can see that right here, the geometry isn't really ideal, but it's not really going to matter for what we're doing with this project. Cool, so let's apply that and bring back our geometry nodes. And then let's just move this out of the way. We can actually hide it. And then to get back to our geo nodes, just highlight your blob of cubes here and then go back to the geometry nodes page. Okay, so now we want to bring in that special cube that we modeled. And the way that we do that is we can actually just click it in the outliner, and then drag that down into the geometry nodes workspace. So just like this, and boom, there it is. So now, if we get rid of this cube node, we can actually replace it with this one. So grab the geometry output and stack that here, and boom, there's our new special cube all along the vertices of our icosphere. So we can either scale up the icosphere, or I could be wrong, but I think we might be able to scale that. Nope, that didn't do it. I know there's a way to control the size with a different node, but for right now, I'm totally blanking on it. So for this project, we're just going to scale up a little bit like that. Cool. And then I don't want all of these facing just they're in their normal orientation, so I can actually rotate them a little bit here. Oh, you know what? I'm an idiot. Okay, so here's the scale for those cubes. So if we wanted to make them like each like 0.5, now we have little cubes. There's that guy. Let's hide that real quick. And now we can, every time we increase the subdivisions, we're going to get more of these cubes. So that looks pretty cool. Okay, cool. So we have our custom cube spread along each vertex of our icosphere. The one thing that I want to do, though, is I actually want to have some more randomness in the scale of our cube. I don't want them all to be the same size. So in order to do this, we're actually going to use two nodes that you might be familiar with through texturing. And the way we add those in is, again, Shift A, and then we're going to add a noise texture. And then we're going to add a color ramp. Cool. Color ramp. Okay. So when using geonodes, We want to change this from 3D to 4D. And then we'll go factor to factor. And then because we want the randomness to affect the scale of these cubes, we'll go from color into scale. And you can see a little bit that we now are having a little more variation in our cube size. And we can play around with some of these values, roughness, detail. You might hear my dog barking in the background. She's crazy. Okay, so there you go. So if we start playing, once we get some of these, just some values put in here, and honestly, these are pretty random. There's not really a rhyme or reason to the numbers that I put in here. I just wanted to give it some data. If we start dragging our color ramp, we'll actually see that those variation start to show up a little bit more. And we can get this cool little effect by actually dragging the distortion. Don't mind me, I'm just getting lost in the sauce. There you go. Okay, so bringing that roughness down seems to make that a little smoother. Cool. I like that. Okay, so on to the next part. I in the original render, I had kind of this like emissive cage as the inside of our sphere, and that all these cool cube things kind of sat on top of that. So the way that we're going to do this is by duplicating this geometry node setup. And so you can do that by hitting Shift D, and then you see how you now have this duplicate right here. If you right click, it'll make your duplicate right on top of your original. And then what we actually want to do now is click this 2 right here, and that makes 2 separate instances of our geometry nodes. So they look exactly the same because right now all the nodes are the same, but you can see that if we actually shrink the radius, we'll get you'll see that second layer kind of show up. But for this, I don't actually want any of this instance on point stuff. I want to go just straight here. Boom. Okay. Let's clean that up a little bit. Our goal is to take this sphere and make its segments, not its vertices, its segments, a wireframe. And the way that we'll do that, here, let's shrink this a little bit. I want to take away some of the subdivisions. You know what? No, let's keep it. 4 is a good number for this. Okay, so the way that we do that is we'll actually add a node called mesh to curve. We'll put that right in the middle. And it's pretty self-explanatory. What it does is it's going to take your mesh from your icosphere and convert that to a curve. You can see our curve right here. And the way that we get it back so that we see the wireframe is actually the opposite. So now we'll go curve to mesh. Pop that right there. Now, nothing's happening because we need something to act as the profile for the curve, and we don't have anything plugged in here. So what we want to do is essentially add a circle, a curve circle, and we'll sweep this curved circle along the wireframe of the icosphere. So we'll take that, run it into here, and that's way too big. So with the radius, I think we're going to want to go like 0.5 maybe. There you go. Yeah, now you can start to see that wireframe come in here. And we can adjust to taste. That's too big. Let's go like 0.1 maybe. Okay, I kind of like that. And then I want to make this a little bit closer to our cubes. So I don't want it to go past, but I want it to feel like the cubes are sitting on that wireframe. Now let's go back to our original node setup. We can do that just by selecting it. And I think I want maybe some more. Nope, sure don't. Let's see, it feels like I want it to take up more room so we can kind of play with that a little bit more. Yeah. I'm happy with that. Cool. So now what we want to do is we want to texture everything. And that means we need to add one more node, because if we like select this and go to add a texture, we have this one in here. You can see that it's actually not affecting the geometry node rig. We actually have to tell geometry nodes that we want to use a material. And so the way that we do that is by adding a set material node. Set material. Cool. So now if I were to like relabel this, I'm really bad at labeling my materials. So let's just call this, I don't know, test. We do that. Let's make it bright red. You'll see then here we have test, and there it goes. So I'm actually going to use an add-on here that I really like for materials. And it's funny that I'm doing this tutorial with this add-on, because the add-on is Real-Time Materials, who is made by Ducky 3D, and his channel is a wealth of information when it comes to geometry nodes. But yeah, so I want these cubes to be kind of a metal texture. So let's just go to metal. And then I think I used sci-fi metal on the previous render. So let's add that material. And again, you've noticed nothing has changed, because we have to actually go back to that set material node and choose the material there. Okay, I like that. Metal, sci-fi, geometry nodes, it all goes together. So now let's select this guy. And you don't have to use his materials. I just find it a little bit easier. But let's add a basic surface in there. And then I want to go find it. I didn't add it. There we go. Now in here, I think I want to change that to yellow. I really like the color scheme that I had. Or sorry, no. I did red. And you know what? I realized that I actually made it an emissive shader. Duh. Okay. So the way that we do that, if we're not going to use Ducky 3D materials or any other materials for the inside cage, we'll just hit new. And then we'll make that red. Actually, that may not matter. We'll go to emission. We'll make it red. Excuse me. So you don't need to change your base color when you're using emissive materials. And then we'll just turn that up to like 5. Okay. And then back in our geo nodes, we haven't added our set material node to this, so I'm going to go ahead and add that real quick. Set material. And then pop down and find the emissive material. I know it's this one just because I can see there's a little glow on it, but label your materials. Don't do what I do. Cool. So now we can see that it's kind of got this like red hot look to it. To stylize this render a little bit more, I actually want to go into our world settings and change the color to black, so we can actually really see those that inside cage kind of pop. We're not done yet. We're just going to add in 2 area lights to help sell our lighting. So we'll Shift A, go to area, bring that up. We'll go into our light setting over here, and we'll make it a little bit bigger. And then actually, I want to make this a lot stronger. So we'll make it like 10,000. I think I need to turn on some stuff. If you're using Eevee, just general practice, come turn on ambient occlusion. You can turn on bloom, screen space reflections, turn on refraction, all that good stuff. We'll just get you looking as good as possible. I think I actually want to leave bloom off for this. That was a little intense. Okay, back to dialing in our light. Oh, did I even change it? No, apparently not. 10. I want that off. I want this. Weird. There we go. Okay. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Or I want it smaller. Let's keep it smaller. Raise it up a little bit. Oops. Sure, why not? That might be too strong now. Let's go like 8,000. Maybe 4,000? Okay, cool. And then now what I want to do is I actually want to duplicate it. Control C, V. And then bring that down. And then I want one pointing upwards. So we're just going to rotate it on the Y-axis by 180 degrees. That's pretty much it. So a lot of this is to taste, but this gets you most of the way there, pretty much all the way there. Again, you can always come back in here, just highlight whatever part you want, go back into your GeoNode setup and mess around. The cool thing is that this is all non-destructive. Oop, got completely rid of it. So yeah, anyway, I hope that this tutorial helped you guys out. I really had fun making this project. So if you guys want to see more Geometry Nodes content, let me know. In the meantime, you guys should go out and try it yourself. And if you have any questions, as always, put them in the comments and I will do the best that I can to answer them. And if I can't, somebody definitely knows and will help out.